VMware is by far the biggest player in the virtualization space, but Broadcom's acquisition and subsequent actions are doing a really good job of pissing off customers and partners alike. Consequently, a number of people are looking at alternatives, and the most obvious replacement for a lot of people is going to be Hyper-V. Hyper-V has the largest business and enterprise market share after VMware, integration with the mainstream services like Veeam that are commonly used in these environments, and plenty of support expertise is available on the market. Everywhere you see this discussion happening though, someone will pop up to remind you that Hyper-V has been discontinued, and in 5 years' time it will be gone for good. Except it's not, and it won't. This is what happens when you get sensationalist headlines and people don't bother to read the article. Hyper-V is not being discontinued, and as people are currently considering the need to look at alternative hypervisors, I thought now was a good time for a video explaining the future of Hyper-V and what is actually getting discontinued. The rumour goes that Hyper-V has been discontinued after Windows Server 2019, so once 2019 goes end of life, Hyper-V will be no more. This is easy to disprove though, because Windows Server 2022 has been out for a couple of years at this point, and look, it has Hyper-V. Clearly this wasn't discontinued after 2019, it's right there. But maybe this is the last version, right? Nope. Microsoft recently announced a number of improvements that will be making their way into Hyper-V in the next version of Windows. One of these improvements is the ability to cluster and live migrate between different generations of CPU, their equivalent of VMware's EVC. It's not like Microsoft is going to stop developing Hyper-V anytime soon. The gigantic cash cow known as Microsoft Azure runs on Hyper-V. It powers some of the newer security features in Windows. Even the Xbox relies on Hyper-V, it's kind of important to them. So where did these rumours start? What exactly has been discontinued? Microsoft Hyper-V Server has been discontinued. You can see where the confusion arises, but this is not the same thing as Windows Server Hyper-V. Microsoft Hyper-V Server was in fact a separate edition of Windows Server. Microsoft Hyper-V Server was a cut-down version of Windows that only came in core variant, so no graphical interface, and only ran the Hyper-V role. You couldn't install a GUI, you couldn't promote it to be a domain controller, you couldn't use it to host DHCP. It could only run Hyper-V. There wasn't anything particularly special about the version of Hyper-V on it. If you install the standard or data center edition of Windows Server, leave all the options on default, and type install Windows feature name Hyper-V, you get essentially the same thing. So what was the point of Microsoft Hyper-V Server? Microsoft's biggest competitor in the virtualization space is VMware. VMware has a feature-limited free edition of their ESXi hypervisor. Hyper-V Server was Microsoft's answer. It was Windows Server with Hyper-V and nothing else. They gave it away for free, and they were able to say, we have a free version too, and ours isn't feature limited. So that's what has been discontinued, the free edition of Hyper-V, not the Hyper-V built into regular Windows Server, or the client edition of Hyper-V that comes with Windows 10 or 11 Pro. I know what you're thinking though, this is still a problem because now you'll have to give Microsoft more money. Well, no, you almost certainly will not. There is no separate license fee for Hyper-V. It's part of Windows, you just need to license Windows. But aha, Microsoft Hyper-V Server didn't need a Windows license. Well, when you license Windows, you license the host hardware. It doesn't matter if it's physical or virtual, Hyper-V, VMware, Xen or KVM. If it runs a Windows workload, you buy a license for the physical kit it runs on. So if you run or could potentially run any Windows virtual machines at all, you still needed to buy a Windows license for Microsoft Hyper-V Server anyway. Same if you're running Proxmox, it needs a Windows license. What this ultimately means is that getting rid of Microsoft Hyper-V Server makes almost no practical difference to anybody. The only people this makes any real difference to are people who've designed a completely non-Windows server infrastructure, all Linux, no Windows anywhere. But then when it comes to choosing what hypervisor to run their completely non-Windows infrastructure on, they're like, yeah, let's put it on Windows. I don't think that's going to be a lot of people. Like, yeah, there's probably someone out there who did it, and they're probably watching this video because internet. Really though, this whole thing is a bit of a non-event. Even for home lab use, You either have a license for your VMs, and that covers a host for full Hyper-V, or you're using an evaluation license, and it doesn't really change anything anyway. Crack on, use whatever hypervisor you want. Subscribe to the channel, watch this video, click the like button, you know the drill, YouTube, yada yada.